Hello and welcome once again to Talking Pictures Podcast. I'm your host David and joined with me as always my co-host Brian. Brian, how are you today?
Swell.
We are here once again to discuss the movie of the week. This week it is Gareth Edwards' The Creator. But before we launch into talking about the movie, what always comes before the movie? The trailers. So Brian, your new segment, you have the trailer of the week. You want to talk us through your trailer of the week?
Hell yeah, I'm going to do you a trailer of the week, David. Trailer of the week for this week's episode is Horizon, an American saga. Have you heard of Horizon?
No, I haven't heard.
This movie from Warner Brothers is going to be released in 2024 twice because it's in two parts. Probably out of four.
Okay.
This is a Kevin Costner starring Western. And he's got part one released in June next year, and then the next one, August. So just 2 months apart. Part one and part two. Horizon, an American saga, culminating 15 years before and after the American Civil War, and starring an amalgamation of cast members: Selena Miller, Sam Worthington, Danny Hudson, and a couple of familiar faces. He's Nick from Yellowstone, and this is Kevin Costner starring and directing both movies, filming them back to back, and I'm pretty sure he's aiming for this to be for 3 to 4 movies. As I said, these are theatrical released movies, so these are not streaming movies, they're cinema movies, and Warner Brothers has backed Costner to have them already shot and released. It's confirmed we are already getting 2 movies. I don't know who's going to be asking for these Western movies that I don't know if they're going to be conglomerates, but this is what Costner is doing, and this is a visual factor of Kevin Costner leaving Yellowstone, which is the other Western show he's watching.
It's funny because as soon as you said Kevin Costner, I was like, oh, is that what that is? Because I definitely had heard that he put a lot of his own money into this, actually, didn't he?
Yeah.
And he's very much in that kind of a Western style now, going from Yellowstone to this. You know what? Fair play to him. If this is something that he wants to do and he's putting his money on the line, and it's very rare that you do get movies where they come out and it's like, oh, 2 films back to back within the same year.
Forget
but the fact
the same
that he's
year,
committing to 4
within the same season, you know.
Yeah, it's mad. It was in a way kind of reminiscent there of like, I don't know, when you think like 2-part movies, you're thinking of like Harry Potter or The Hunger Games or even Rebel Moon that's coming up. But the fact that he's releasing them like kind of the top and tail of the summer, that's it'll be interesting to see. You know, I'm glad that you've called this out now as the trailer of the week, and we get to, you know, come next summer if we get to talk about these. You know,
we can look back.
You said it here first. Yeah, you got it. You called it first.
It was just a teaser. So it was just a teaser. It's only 40 seconds of him like riding on a horse and turning the horse off to fire like 3 shots of his gun at something. You know, it's an announcement teaser type of thing. But trailers catch my attention every week. So yeah,
and I've not seen Yellowstone. So is he a good, like, he fits a cowboy persona? Definitely.
Yeah. Yellowstone's a modern Western TV show. Okay. This is like during the Civil War era, and like Dances with Wolves type of era. But yeah, Yellowstone. I think he wanted Paramount to back him on these movies, and they said nope. And I suppose he's been sour ever since, butting heads with the Yellowstone creator Taylor Sheridan, and just 2 alphas going at each other. Anyway, a lot of drama and a lot of controversy, and I think Kevin Costner has left Yellowstone halfway through a season, and it's just making it's just like, drama is one thing, but like look, I'm not going to get into it. If we're ever talking Yellowstone for a committed episode, I'll get into it, and I'll be happy to intro that. But that's for another time. And this is only a segment for trailers. So please, Davis, take us on to the topic of today's episode.
the main feature. Okay, so we're going to talk about Gareth Edwards' new movie, The Creator. This is a movie that is based in the near future, 2060s or so, and AI it's in full swing. Everyone is, familiar with AI. It's an everyday household thing. It's not just your Alexa. It's not just your Google Home anymore. You are living with it. You are talking to it.
It's the garbage men. It's house workers. Their assistants. AI was introduced in the world in like the 60s, and it was brought into life then, which is why it's not all that far in the future, like 2062. I mean, you're going to be alive by that then, and we're not seeing anything remotely in the likes of that. And we're seeing like a catch up of a montage sequence in the opening of the movie, where as AI became bigger and bigger, they had like robots taking occupations as like police officers. So we're seeing like robots with guns, crowd managing. So the brutality of police brutality coming into that. Okay, so that's a segue for them to become, I guess, evil from the perspective of Americans.
Mm-hmm. I don't know about you, but I think that it's a really smart choice to. I suppose it's more of like an alternate timeline, as opposed to like distant future, because the one thing that always like. It doesn't annoy me, but it's something that I definitely notice when it is like this, like, oh, this distant future, like 200 years in the future.
Yeah.
It's okay, but it still looks like now. Like if you look 200 years in the past for us, modern day doesn't look anything like it does 200 years ago, and the same 200 years back and 200 years back. But if you push like 200 years from now, obviously we're limited within our filmmaking and our prediction and stuff like that to what the future will look like. So just having like an alternate kind of, okay, this is what happens if this technology was introduced to us in the 60s, and where would it be 100 years from now? So it's only 40, maybe 50 years in the future. So even though everything is technologically advanced, it is still based in some sort of reality where, like that, the AI are just doing kind of everyday jobs. They're just integral to society. They're just a part of society, and there's obviously the difficulties that the West has with regards to accepting them because of the plot, where as just before I jump into it, of course, we didn't say it there, but spoilers like we always do, with the
kaboom,
the nuke, the big kaboom, the nuke going off in LA, which causes the West to disown AI completely. Like essentially they're just the enemy now, and then we see that the Eastern countries, and what
Asia,
they don't specifically say
they say New Asia.
Yeah, they didn't.
So it's
they've embraced
amalgamation of a load of Asian countries. I feel like just when I look at it, I just think Thailand, because of all the poppy fields and all the landscapes. I'm not.
Yeah.
Like that's just where my brain goes to, Thailand. But
I think that.
Yes.
Yeah, it was best to do that where it's kind of it's this whole side. It's like in a way it's East versus West, but there's no definitive like, oh, it is this country. It's all these countries, you know, and they respect and acknowledge that AI is in a way the next step in human evolution.
Yeah,
with that
as the Americans have banned AI and disowned them, and they said we are not proclaiming New Asia as the enemies, but the AI they harbor are. So they're invading their countries to attack AI and anything AI based and source. So that's not stopping them from threatening and disposing of civilians or citizens of New Asia in an early scene, like threatening to kill villagers who live nothing but next to nothing in their lives, but looking to kill robots. And the villagers are saying it's the next stage of evolution. How dare you? They have souls. They have souls more than you. And then throughout the movie, we're seeing pretty much I think it's it's quite interesting to see the perspective of the New Asia's treatment of AI as opposed to the West, because the West, quite quickly, they're the enemy, kill them, that's it, kill them.
Yeah.
So with the New Asia perspective and how they treat them, there's so much layers of different levels in seeing how they treat them. So in one scene, there's a little girl with her parent crying over a robot who I'm assuming was part of their family. There are, let me think, robots who are monks, and then there are robots who are telling stories to kids and talking about peace, how robots will all be free. Like they're treated like people, and then there's this one particular robot who is among Ken Watanabe's task force or rebellion squad, and this robot has a conscience, because there's this one scene he's just sitting back smoking like a pipe, and then he hears the Americans coming in with all their technology, Skynet looking machinery, and we're being attacked, being all reactionary like an actual human would be. And then that one scene in the midst of all their attacks, once the blue target is on you, a rocket is going to come for you, and so everyone scatters and runs away like cockroaches. And the robot, who we've seen sitting back leaning on a boat or having displays of actual human emotions, runs towards a hut full of children, stops, thinks to himself for a second, and then goes to run back the other way, because he's not going to run in a hut and have all these kids die. And instead of, running away or backing up a bit to allow himself get blown up, like, I can't go in there, so I'm just going to sacrifice myself, he runs away. He runs away with the intent of still hoping to survive, but that's just cut short real quick. But I think there's that little moment of stopping to not run into the hut full of children and running away instead of stopping and just standing there. I think that makes a difference of, well, I would do that. I wouldn't go into the hut, but I'll keep running. I wouldn't run towards the hut and then just stop and, okay, I'm going to stand here and be all sacrificial. It's like, no, I want to try and live, so I'm going to keep running away.
Yeah.
So just little moments like that. He became a favorite character, and I don't even know who voiced the robot. And he wasn't a main character at all. He's just a red shirt almost.
And I think with that scene specifically, that character, I know the exact one you're talking about, and I was like, oh, that's great. Is that throughout the movie, there's different levels of this AI. And by different levels, it's like, the outward appearance of them. So there's a lot of AI that have human faces, and then other ones that have like kind of robotic figures, and then other ones that just have like blank.
Yeah.
Like they're just squares or circles.
Yeah.
So
honestly, they've had like faces that are like flash in the horizontal or horizontal look. Like I don't know, like. Just think Cyclops as laser beam, but that's the head.
Yes.
That's the head of their robot's head going across. And when you say some of them have human faces, that would be real life humans like me and you donating their likeness to AIs. Yeah. But then there are also simulants as well, isn't that right?
What were simulants again?
Simulants are the ones who are like Ken Watanabe and the people who are human, but they like pretty much turn themselves into robots, like with because that.
Oh, okay, yeah. So there's so many different levels to this AI thing. So I think that moment specifically, the one you're talking about, I was so glad that it was given to an AI that didn't have a face,
instead
that
of
it wasn't
girl.
like that it was a humanoid looking robot, but it didn't have a human face.
Yes.
So it didn't feel like it was like, oh, that's a human guy. That you really felt like, oh no, this is an AI, this is a robot who sees this, has that moment, and then runs away. And it's like, oh, it values its own life, but it values these people's lives more. And that would have been a really easy moment to give to a character that looked like Ken Watanabe, the simulant, or
Yeah.
even one that had a donated face, but having it be like a completely faceless AI, I thought that was brilliant. It gave the whole AI, that whole section of the film, all those characters. Oh, they may not look human, but they are human.
Yeah.
And I thought that was great. I thought that the whole film. I think we've talked a lot about the plot there and just those individual moments and stuff like that. The actual film itself, Brian, what did you think of the film? Because I loved it. I thought it was great.
I thought the first act was so good. It was become heavily layered in being, you're going to think this is one of the movies of the year of 2023. And I think the starting point is that it's turning out to be one of those, because we've seen the trailers, it's turning out to be one of those found father, found daughters, or chosen father, chosen daughter type of subgenres. You know, I'm gonna waffle on here for a bit in terms of the plot, but the starting go get you for audiences is like, comparing it to The Last of Us or Logan or The Last of Us, whichever version you want to think. And then, because we're getting lesser good movies like that. There was one earlier this year with 65, Adam Driver and the dinosaurs. And you want to throw more, David Harbour as Hopper and Millie Bobby Brown as Eleven in Stranger Things. So, you know, that's a whole subgenre gone on. And then The Mandalorian. So this is one here with John David Washington, Denzel's son, as Taylor, a better protagonist than the protagonist in Tenet, who sees robots as just machines, and it's not real, it's a program. Is brought in there to kill the source, the MacGuffin that's gonna kill all humans type of thing. Well, this is actually a little girl who doesn't know none the wiser. She's very naive. She's literally childlike, and instead of killing her, he takes her out, or he pretty much monitors her, and he's not following his mission orders to kill the child. He's just keeping the child with him. And then he also has his hidden agenda to, maybe this child can get me back to my wife, who I married while I was undercover, and she found out, and then I thought she died, but then she's still alive, and I want to go find her. So that's why he's keeping her alive. Meanwhile, you have probably I don't know how to class this character as the best or second best or third best character of the movie, but she's great. You have Alison Jennings as his hard grizzled soldier, who I guess is posed as the antagonist, but I wouldn't call her the antagonist, but she's just a great foil to the guy who I brought into this fold is now betrayed us, so we have to go sort it ourselves, calling in the cavalry and killing soldiers she's a mean old bitch because her children were killed by rebel robot loving squadrons, whatever. So that's why with the war, not everything is black and white, everything's grey in the middle. But when it affects you personally, well, then you just want revenge. So she's a robot hater. She doesn't like robots just as much as John David Washington, but John David Washington is the protagonist, so he's gonna go through some changes, because at the end of it, he becomes open to this child, Alfie, that he nicknames, and he's being like, he's being agitated. He's no patience for her. It's like, oh, come on, get in the truck. And and that, you want to play a game? I forget what the game's called, but it involved with him using the F word, and then later the kid uses the F word as if it's hide and seek, and because the little girl says, oh fuck, I forget what the name is, but think of it as the way it's like, Hey, go hide and fucking seek, and that's what the little girl says. Something on the lines of that. Yeah, he's really good. We play go hide and fucking seek. You know, like it's very
She's just
childlike.
repeating what she hears. Like
Yes.
she doesn't know that it's bad.
Yeah.
She's just repeating what she hears.
I'm human. I don't remember all the dialogue in the movie, but I remember what is coming across when we're hit across the head with it. So all of that was nice. So when they're on their journey, I thought, well, maybe we just rushed a bit from getting to the point where he's threatening to leave her behind or to be taken apart to when she puts her head on his shoulder. You're not a good person and I'm not a person scene. So I just thought we jumped to that a bit too quick, so it was just a little bit too rushed. And when things like that are too rushed, it doesn't feel earned, especially within this father-daughter subgenre. And then as we progress, pretty much all through the second act, up until what is part one of the climax when they're in the village and after the bridge scene, which we'll get into in a minute. But I just thought that I slowed down a bit and the pace is just a little bit off. And where are we going with this? Because I don't know how we're going to this. And at this point, you know, Ken Watanabe is back in the movie again, and we're being told as audiences watching the movie, okay, so they have to go up to the big spaceship in the sky to blow it up. It doesn't feel like they're getting anywhere close with that. We're only focused on finding John David Washington's wife, Gemma Chan, who's revealed to be in coma. So that's sad and tug at the heartstrings, and then I thought, okay, here comes fucking American Skynet with all their big track machines and killing everyone. And, good action, really good. And then I don't want to keep waffling, I want to give the audiences a break from me talking. Do you want to talk about that bridge scene? Because I just loved how you put it after watching it. Remember that bridge scene?
How did I put it? I don't remember how I put it.
When Alison Jennings is opening up the chopper, slapping those tin cans up. Go.
Oh yeah, they were great. They were like the AI on the other side of it, like where obviously America, we hate AI, we want the end of it, but like they still use it. It's like
as
it's
weapons.
like the thing with it, they use it as weapons, and like we can say that it's bad, but when we use it, it's for good. It's like I think that's with every military and everyone. Like it's do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
And so when they introduced those bots, they were so menacing. They were brilliant. I thought they were like straight out as like Star Wars. I felt like there was a lot of inspiration from a lot of movies, I think, in this one, but I could just see those. They were just these big square bombs with arms and legs, and they just ran. They just ran and ran and ran until the timer went off and they exploded. And it was like, they are so menacing, even though they're just a square box, but they ran like the Terminator in T2. And it's just like, oh, this is an unstoppable force, and there's nothing. It's not going to meet an immovable object. That's how it felt. So when it just stopped and it's gone, but it was great to see that little moment where there's such a disregard for like the Americans towards all AI, that even though these guys, these robots are on their team, that they open the door and she's like, go. And the robot, it knows its purpose. It knows that, okay, my job is to run until I stop and then I die, I explode. And it has this moment where it looks back to the other one and then back to Alison Janney's character and goes like, oh, it's an honor serving with you. And she's like, go. She doesn't give a shit, but it has the feelings. Even though it's just a square box, it still has feelings. I just thought that was like great characterization. I want to go through some of the things that you said there, just in relation to kind of how you felt about the movie. I really, really love the movie. And so I think that some of the issues that a lot of people are having, and like, don't get me wrong, I think that this movie I think it's great, but I know that it's really polarizing. It's really mixed. And I wasn't expecting it to be, because while I was going through the whole thing, I was like, I I can't find a fault with this. It's only kind of after the fact where you get discussing with people like yourself there, where you said, oh, the transition from kind of him, John David's character, when he wasn't really all that arse with Alfie, but then they had all of a sudden the father-daughter relationship. I didn't even notice that. I was just so invested in the whole story that felt like a natural. Maybe it did happen a bit quick, but I felt like, oh, there's a lot of stuff here that we're not seeing. Like those, like you could have easily put, a scene with those conversations, like when they're in the truck or when they get the lift, with the other family, and then they like break through the barricade and stuff. Like you definitely could have seen like another scene in there with him talking to the other dad, and he comes to realize, oh, maybe I am the protector. Like in any other movie, you would see those scenes, but I felt like I wouldn't have needed those there because I was so invested in the world overall. Maybe I was more invested in the world than the characters, if that makes sense. And I just thought that the world was, I just fell in love with it, and I was like, oh, I want to see more of this world.
I can actually see where you're coming from, because as you were explaining there, I was thinking, maybe I like Alfie more than John David Washington's character, Taylor was his name. So maybe I like Alfie more than Taylor in this movie, because I think Alfie's more maybe interesting, the self independence she has, like in the car scene at the border. She sees the border police patrolman coming up saying, take off your hood, because take off your hood. Oh, a simulant. Well, she puts her hands together in a prayer and she turns the electricity off, or she can connect to machinery. So I like that she knows what she's doing, even though it's not intentionally violent. And well, maybe their bond was not as strong as others like Logan or an X-23 or Joel and Ellie. And I'm sorry, but this is a new subgenre that is here to stay. This is the second movie of its kind this year, so it's just gonna keep coming. So that's why I'm going to compare it to movies like that. It's not a bad thing, and I would argue it's one of the better ones. But maybe I like the characters more than the Bond, or maybe I'll probably say that the other way around later. But the world they created, yes, the world created a world where you can get someone's conscience who is dead and put it into the back of a dead robot's head, and they can be alive and for the next 30 seconds to tell those what happened in their final moments of death. Like that scene, okay, so that exists. And with that was just one of many things. It's been over a week now since we've seen it, and it was quite a long movie. But there were so many great scenes and moments. I just think the pacing was off, and I think they should have did some other scenes differently to hit home that tug of the heart, or add a few extra scenes in there. And I think when they said that we were in the first part of the climax, which is in the village, because that's not where the movie ends. That's where we get some revelations and reveals. But, the movie continues for another 20 minutes, which I will argue was a bit rushed. It felt rushed in America or wherever they are, because in Western society, where they have Alfie and they have Taylor, and they're trying to kill Alfie gently to kill this horse, and John Davis well, no, I like robots now, because Alfie's modeled after my unborn child. And I thought, okay, good, you foreshadowed we're gonna be here, but it feels like, how are you gonna do this so quickly? And I did feel terrified and scared for our characters in the end. I actually really did. I felt, I don't want one or either of them to die. I don't want to get into this just yet, but I did not want Alfie to die, and I was actually really convinced she was gonna die. John David and Taylor was gonna get away, but of course, in traditional, normally the father figure dies, and Alfie gets on home, and the big spaceship blows up, and yay, everyone's good. And That was good, and we can get into that in a minute. But I thought there were another few scenes that I thought, oh, a couple of editing mistakes. You know, you're cutting to a wide shot of John David walking towards Alfie, who's strapped into the chair to, shut her down. We should have cut to a close-up shot of her face because it looked like she was asleep. But when you cut to her from the wide shot of both of them in this shot, she's already looking at him awake. So it's like, oh, did you forget to film a shot there of her waking up, watching him approach her? Because we cut from like a wide shot with the two of them in it, with him walking to her and her asleep, to him up close to her and her looking at him and she's awake. That is one of a couple of sequences I thought, did you forget to do a pickup shot here or there? Because that's just one example, but that happened a few times, I thought, and it just took me out and it stopped me from it being perfective. And there's one last scene I want to talk about that I really like. It's probably my favorite part of the movie, and I'm gonna guess you know what it is. But I think we're halfway through this episode.
Oh, you know what that means? It's time to do some flashbacks. Laura, play us that jingle. Thanks, Laura. So, I got the flashbacks here anyway. So, our first flashback, and actually, you know what, I'm actually kind of noticing here with our flashbacks is that we may have been referring to John David's character by the wrong name. I think we've been referring to him as Taylor, but his name's actually Joshua.
That's my fault, but you know what? As I said, I'm only human. I can't remember everything. I only remember what is being made across. You know, I understand the points that's coming across. I don't remember the dialogue. I'm only human. Probably didn't have my coffee today.
We'll let you away with it. Don't worry.
Apologies.
But yeah, so the first flashback in the scene where Joshua and Alfie go through LAX, they walk past a departure screen. It lists Scarif as a destination, and Scarif is one of the planets in director Gareth Edwards' previous film Rogue One, Star Wars story.
Yeah. I know Scarif. Yeah, that's I missed that. I didn't see that in the movie.
Yeah, it's to be honest, I missed it too. It was only after the fact, kind of looking up stuff about it, that came up. And I like that. I like that. I know that Gareth Edwards, he had a lot of difficulty on that film, in regards to kind of butting heads with the studio, and I don't think he's involved with the Andor series now, following on from Rogue One. But it's nice that he still, has a little nod to it. And you can definitely see that there's a lot of inspiration from a lot of different films, but Star Wars is definitely an inspiration for this film.
Yeah, would you believe it if actually people saw this trailer and thought, oh, it's another Star Wars movie? Because they would see in the trailers Rogue One, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, like... Yeah, I don't blame him. Like, if you look there, it's not really, it's part of a flashback here, but Gareth Edwards has cited films as Apocalypse Now, Baraka, Blade Runner, Akira, Rain Man, The Hit, E.T., Paper Moon, Star Wars as some of the film's inspirations. Like, I don't blame them for it. If you saw that and if you weren't, I suppose, kind of savvy in, like, knowing, like we are in terms of, like, directors and cinematic universes and stuff, like, you would fully, I wouldn't blame you if you thought this was a Star Wars film. So
yeah, I know some people who thought, oh yeah, it's a new Star Wars movie out, and I was like, what? No, that's not Star Wars. And like, it's just funny to think, like, how can you think this is Star Wars? Like, even from the movie trailers, like, because but like, you're supposed to know when there's a new Star Wars movie coming out, you know? It
feels like it's an event when there's a big Star Wars movie, alright. But I even felt like the space station, that felt very like Death Star to me. Do you know, like, there's like this ominous threat above you in the sky that could just come down and just destroy you. I was like, wow, that feels like really Death Star to me, like on a much smaller scale. But yeah, moving on.
I do like those those suggestions of Apocalypse Now, Paper, whatever the hell, and Akira, like dead right. Those Blade Runner, those feel like all true inspirations for this movie. I'd compare those movies to this more than this to any Star Wars movie at all.
Yeah, even the scene you were saying earlier about when they were kind of interrogating the village looking for the AI. That's like straight out of Apocalypse Now. Like that's absolutely, you were bang on with that. Like you can draw a line from a lot of different stuff to a lot of those other movies. Yeah, moving on to flash fact number 2. Did you know that Benedict Wong was originally cast in this film, but dropped out due to scheduling conflicts, and then he was replaced by Ken Watanabe?
That is cool. Yeah, Benedict Wong. I can see him playing that character. I think I prefer Ken Watanabe playing this character more than Benedict Wong. I feel like Benedict Wong felt more like a grizzled rebel fighter, and Benedict Wong felt like he might have come across a bit too soft or nice for the person that he was in this movie. So it's funny how casting always comes about. It comes out perfect in the end, and I think Ken played it better than I would think Benedict would have played it, because I like them both very much.
And it's not Gareth Edwards and Ken Watanabe's first collaboration. They were both on Godzilla, weren't they?
Yeah, they were.
So
100%.
Good to have the duo back. And then our final flash fact is that the film's official trailer was released on July 17th, 2023, which was 3 days after the beginning of the 2023 SAG-AFTRA strike. And then coincidentally, it was actually released 1 day after the end of the writer's strike. And with both of those strikes and within the movie are both dealing with issues regarding AI. So I think that's really interesting that this movie about AI came out, and it's like at the top and tail of the kind of most prevalent AI thing going on in the industry.
I think people are talking about AI way too much these days. I mean, come on. Like, maybe I'm just starting to become one of those old people who's oblivious because there are younger generation below us who grew up with the term Karen, and who grew up with the TikTok can make you a millionaire type of generations. Maybe we're past that. I don't know. I just think everyone's talking about AI and all this waffling. Like, where? It's fucking Skynet, robots, and what?
Yeah.
Like, I'll only take the most seriousness I've taken AI is the fact of what the producers were pitching to get the likeness of actors, and like, okay, well, just put that shit to bed, because the producers are being made out to be like literally the villains of Hollywood.
Yeah, absolutely.
So just put that shit to bed.
Yeah.
But no. This is a science fiction movie.
And with that brings an end to our flashback section. Loris plays out there. So, something else that I just wanted to kind of bring up there. You kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, but the whole slow pace of it all, and kind of as we were going up into the temple and finding, as we now know his name, Joshua, finding his wife there, and that you were kind of like, I suppose, did you say like you were kind of thinking like, oh, when are they going to blow up the ship? Like that was kind of the end goal for you.
Yeah, because Ken Watanabe's character pitched it to his squad. This is what needs to happen, and here's me thinking, oh, okay, so this is where we need to go. Feels like we're a bit far away. As we progress to the sequence of the village with the battle there, it just felt like this feels like climactic, but we're in the wrong location.
Yeah.
So it just felt like where are we? I don't know where we're going to go. And I feel like, you're supposed to know where a movie's going to end, especially when you know the language of film and the language of storytelling, like me and you. But I just really didn't know how we were going to get to there when we knew we had to go to there. Oh, here's another example of I guess things were maybe too rushed, or things that just you should have just bridged a gap by slotting in another scene in the middle of of something, because Alison Jennings starts off in the helicopter, throwing them tin bot cans out to self destruct. So we cut from there to her already high up in the temple. So I just thought she got there like way too quick, like all of a sudden.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was just another example I jotted into my head. But yeah, I thought that was one of a few things that just I just didn't know the direction they were going to go, and I felt like I just had to accept and take whatever the movie was going to deliver. And I don't know, maybe I have a fear that when I don't know what a movie is going to deliver in this, only because I'm struggling to follow where I'm expecting it to take me, I fear that it's going to not be executed as well or as excellent.
It's funny because I felt when I was watching it, I really wasn't expecting them to blow up the ship at all, even though I had seen it in the trailer. It was something that I was like, okay, the mission to blow it up, that feels like it's Ken Watanabe's and Alfie's journey, but not Joshua's. I felt like his arc was culminating in finding his wife. So when it was, as we were getting the resolution to that aspect and that journey, and then he finds out that Alfie is actually a copy of his unborn child, that I was like, oh, I felt like this is a satisfying conclusion to him, and that's who we're following. So I thought that we were going to leave this on a cliffhanger. I thought that we were going to end when he goes into the when they get captured, obviously a little bit later on, and he breaks Alfie out. They have that moment where he says like, oh, not dead off. I thought we were going to leave on a cliffhanger here of them escaping, and that eventually then we would either get a sequel or leave it on a bit of a cliffhanger and not get that big resolution. And because I felt like the whole time, yes, there was action, but I felt like ironically, in a story about AI, I was like, oh, this is a human story, but not so much featuring humans. So I thought that So I guess I agree with you in terms of like, oh, the actual destruction of the spaceship felt rushed, because I also wasn't expecting it. I would have been perfectly happy to have it end on a cliffhanger and then come back to this in a couple of years, and maybe Alfie has progressed. Like they said, like, oh, she needs a few more years to be able to reach her full potential. So I thought we were going to get that in a couple of years' time, whether we see her grow up and we get, like, I suppose, a little bit of a teenager or something like that, and something like that. So when they did kind of rush into it a little bit of like, oh no, we're going to blow it up also, I was like, oh, okay, I don't personally need this. I know that maybe a lot of other people did, because they were going into it expecting a little more action. So I can definitely understand the negative comments about like, oh, this is rushed, and okay, we're coming into the final act here now, and we need to get, like, it's like, okay, quick, hurry up. But I think that I would have loved to see an actual sequel to this and have that ending be a little more, expanded on in the sequel. Have a little bit more character development between Joshua and Alfie, and then have it culminate in that kind of liberation of the Eastern Alliance from the Death Star.
I see what you're coming from, and well, just right off the bat, David, this movie's flopping and it's not making any money.
Yeah,
we're not going to get a sequel, and I don't think we ever were going to, because this movie was always destined to flop, because people are just going to look at this and think, oh, it's another what? A war, invasion, sci-fi, general, bland, blah, blah, blah. When it comes to, if this was, instead of robots, it was aliens, or instead of aliens, if it was just Middle Eastern propaganda of US soldiers, that's just one example of, like, I think it just still would just be bland and generic, and I think people these days are just, they don't care. And because they don't care of this event type of movie, this genre type of movie, by genre I mean science fiction, robots, they're just, people are bored of it, I think, and people are sick of it. People who are like, not you and me. And I think as a result, they don't find any interest in watching this. Therefore, they can't get themselves engaged or involved into the story. Hence, it's flopping. Hence, people look at this and think, oh, it's a Star Wars movie, isn't it? Well, if they think it's a Star Wars movie, that means they're not really that much of a huge Star Wars devoted fan, because they would know it's not. So they're not scheduling their calendar to go out and see it. So sorry, this is just what it was, and I
think it's a shame that it's flopping, because it's great to see an original sci-fi concept and an original world, and I think that it's a shame that even if it is polarizing like that, it's not doing well enough that like somebody else might come along and say, oh, that inspired me, I could make my own world. That not everything has to be franchise.
And you know what else, David?
So,
this movie had a budget of at least 80 million.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think we didn't even get to touch on it. But the fact that this was like nearly filmed all practically, on like a Sony like camera, like a camera that you can go out and buy yourself. And then they went out. I know the Gareth Edwards, he went and he filmed just out in Taiwan, I think it was, where most of the principal photography took place, and then went in afterwards and put the special effects in after. Like, I think that if you go in and you don't think that, oh, Gareth Edwards got actual robots and AI to act in this film, you're not actually looking at the film properly, because there was no point throughout the film that I thought, oh, this looks fake. I personally, now maybe you might have noticed one or two things, but for me, I was fully engrossed. I fully believed everything that was being shown in front of me, and I would hope to see more of it, whether that be in a TV series or another movie somewhere down the line, because like we said there, you touched on it a little bit, there's such depth to the world that we see little scratches of. They scratch the surface of it, whether it be like the American use of AI, whether it be the when they can reanimate the dead from taking a scan of the brain, or even like the fact that when they went to go attack the space station, there was flights to the moon. I'm like, oh, okay, so we have space travel in this world as well, and that was not even touched on. Like, it's an expansive world that is ripe for more. Do you know, like how Blade Runner, do you know, like it was years until 2049 was released, and it's like, oh, there's so much that you could do, and it's an untapped potential that you just want to see more of.
Sorry, I think people just want to watch Dom Toretto drive off a dam in his car and front on an explosion like he's the Incredible Hulk. Sorry, I think people want to see that more than beautiful stories told in this medium. Sorry, this is just where we're going.
Yeah, no.
There is one scene. There is one scene though. I think really hits home for me that just stands out this film, especially when it comes to characters. I think in general I like supporting characters more, because we get more out of them from little screen time.
Yeah,
because they're not the protagonists. So Alison Janney, I think if you were to ask me, she's probably actually now one of my top 10 favorite actors of all time. Every time I see her in a movie, I just love her. Whether it's in High Tanya or The Help, or almost literally anything. I fucking think Alison Janney is just great. She's a great mom, but she's also a great bitch.
Yeah.
But you like her. And I liked her in this movie. And as the AI hating grizzled soldier who's on the antagonist perspective, she goes up into the temple and she faces Joshua, and she says, no, it's over, we got the kid, whatever. But then Ken Watanabe is there, and he's there, and he shoots Alison Janney. We think, oh, it's just hit her pack, didn't do it, and Ken Watanabe's his literal gut is shot out, so he's just disposed of. And then Alison Janney is bag him and tag him. But then, two of our goons notice that there's a bomb on the back of our strap, the back on our pack, right? So we know, that's one of those bombs that shoots on you, and it takes like 20 seconds to explode, and like you can't get it off you. And while those goons are trying to take off the strap, they do it in a process that is long enough for us to be thinking, oh my god, and because they should have blown up by now, but it's still like dragging out the countdown. It's happening long enough for us to think, they're gonna get it off, and she's just about to avoid the blast, or maybe she's just gonna die within the moment of the explosion from the bomb being thrown away. Either way, it's a bit of a long countdown, and we've seen it earlier in the movie, right? This bomb we're talking about, right? But Alfie is there with Joshua, and the countdown on the bomb stops, and Alison Jenny notices that Alfie's doing her little prayer to stop the bomb from going off. And Alison Jenny's thinking to herself, in a fraction of a second, this kid has just stopped this bomb from detonating. This kid has stopped me from dying. And what do our fucking goons do? She's attacking. Goes to shoot the kid, Alfie. Joshua grabs her and runs away. And Alison Jenny realizes the bomb continues counting. And she's, putting two and two together. And like a revelation just flashed before her eyes. As she was telling the goons, no, stop, because they've interrupted Alfie's connection to stop the bomb from going off, and it blew up, and she died with that thought in her head. Maybe I was wrong. Oh, shit, what could I have done differently? Or maybe I could have done something differently, because so. In writing the script, that's how this character was going to die, right? In an explosion, a villain death, woohoo. But instead of it, the bomb just blowing up in that process of trying to remove the pack, they decide to have Alfie try to save her, just because, no more violence. But, the stupid goons, the henchmen with the guns, the black suits, all that, try to shoot Alfie, and so the scene carries on like so. But there's a change in the character arc of Alison Jenny. And I thought this movie is just elevated to another layer now, just from that one moment. Just before that one little thing they did for that character right before they died. You're watching me, David, explain this, and the listeners listening to me. I really like that scene. It's probably my favorite scene because it's a character piece. It's a character development.
Yeah. It's really cool to have someone.
And it ends the same way it ends. And if you remove that scene, it's decreased in value. I think it's decreased in quality. But having it in there, it's my favorite scene in the movie now.
Yeah, it's really interesting to have your kind of main antagonist see the error of their ways, but be denied the chance to change.
Yeah, 100%. Couldn't have nailed it any more than I would try to, David. That's exactly what happened. And like I said, I always like a good character death or a good villain death. And, well, I'll just call her a villain because I don't know what else to say it to title her. But props, bravo, great, 100%. Go for it. Yeah.
I think that's a great point to wrap up our discussion here now on The Creator. I would like to thank you, Brian, first of all, for joining me for this episode. I'd like to thank the viewers for listening to us ramble on about The Creator. And I'd like to thank Gareth Edwards for making The Creator, because I love this movie, so it was great. So thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you would like to leave us a 5-star review, we'd really, really appreciate it. If you'd like to follow us on all our socials, they're all down below. We're on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook. You can follow us on any of your podcasting apps of choice. We normally post every Wednesday. I say normally, we do post every Wednesday they go live at midnight, but they'll be there for you when you wake up. So when you're doing your morning walk, or you're commuting to work, or you're coming home from work, it'll all be there for you. that's all I really have to say on it. Brian, any final thoughts?
Quick recommendations?
Quick recommendation. Halloween. I've been watching some of the Halloween movies. I've watched Halloween 4, 5, 6, and 7, and they're all shit. So I'd recommend the original Halloween because it's a good movie.
The first one.
The first one, yeah. We're also in October, so we're going through our spooky season.
Well, you know what? Fuck it, David. I'll recommend The First Exorcist because that's all I have to say about that.
The Exorcist, yeah, that's a good one.
Emphasis on the first
Yeah.
Exorcist. That one. Yeah, the one with Chris McNeil. Oh wait, the one with Linda. No wait, the one. Let me think. The one with Max von Sydow.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think that one. Yeah, the one with the two priests in it at the end, and it's 1960. I don't know. The First Exorcist.
Yeah, you know what he means. You know what he
started
means.
it all.
Yeah.
Yeah. That one.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks.